out. Okay, this is how we're gonna do this, okay?
She thought it was just another drive home until a police officer yanked her out of her car like a criminal. Let me ask you something. What would you do if a routine traffic stop suddenly turned aggressive for no clear reason, no explanation, no warning, just flashing lights and a man with a badge who already decided you were a problem? It was 5:42 p.m. on a quiet Thursday evening. The sun was still out, casting long shadows across the road as Angela Brooks, 42, drove through a calm suburban neighborhood. Nothing unusual, no speeding, no erratic driving, just another day winding down. Then the lights appeared behind her. At first, Angela didn't panic. She signaled, slowed down, and pulled over smoothly, calm, controlled, the way anyone who respects the law would. But the moment Officer Daniel Reeves, 34, stepped out of his patrol car, something felt off. His walk was fast, aggressive, not the usual measured approach officers are trained to use. His hand hovered too close to his holster, his face already tense. Before Angela could even fully roll down her window, his voice cut through the air. "License and registration, now." No greeting, no explanation. Strange, right? Angela blinked, slightly caught off guard, but she stayed composed. "Of course, officer," she replied calmly. "May I ask why I was stopped?" That should have been a simple question, but it wasn't. Something in Reeves snapped. His tone sharpened, his posture stiffened. It was as if her question, basic, lawful, had challenged him. "I'll ask the questions here," he shot back. Now pause for a second. Why would a routine question escalate the situation? Why did his energy feel personal? Angela didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. Instead, she studied him, carefully, quietly, like she was trying to understand something deeper. And that's when the tension really began. Reeves leaned closer to the window, his impatience turning into something more dangerous. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered. No explanation, no justification, just an order. Angela hesitated, not out of fear, but out of confusion. This didn't make sense. And in that brief moment of hesitation, everything changed. Without warning, Reeves reached into the car, grabbed her arm, and forcefully pulled her out. No resistance, no threat, just force. And as Angela stumbled out onto the pavement, one question hung heavy in the air. Why was this officer acting like this when he had no idea who she really was? How does a simple traffic stop turn into something this aggressive, this fast? Angela's feet hit the pavement harder than expected as Officer Reeves pulled her fully out of the car. The door swung open behind her, still vibrating from the force. For a brief second, everything felt still, but the tension in the air was thick enough to cut. "Turn around," Reeves barked. No explanation, no attempt to de-escalate. Angela steadied herself, adjusting her balance. Her expression didn't match the chaos of the moment. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't shouting. If anything, she seemed controlled, observing. "Officer," she said calmly, her voice measured, "I'm asking again, why am I being stopped?" That should have grounded the situation. It should have reset things. But instead, it did the opposite. Reeves exhaled sharply, clearly irritated now. "You're not cooperating," he snapped, even though she hadn't resisted a single command. Did you catch that? No resistance, yet he's escalating anyway. Angela slowly turned as instructed, keeping her hands visible. "I am cooperating," she replied, still calm. "I just want to understand what's happening." That calmness, it wasn't weakness, it was control. The kind of control that comes from experience, from knowing exactly how situations like this are supposed to go. But Reeves either didn't notice or didn't care. His hand hovered near his holster again, unnecessary, excessive, a silent signal that things were slipping out of proportion. A car passed by slowly, then another. People were starting to notice. And then came the next shift. "I feel unsafe," Angela said clearly. "I'd like a supervisor present." That should have been the moment everything slowed down. Protocol demanded it. But Reeves took it as a challenge. His jaw tightened, his tone hardened. "You don't get to make demands," he fired back. Now ask yourself, why not? Why deny something so basic unless controlled was the real objective? The tension snapped. In one sudden motion, Reeves grabbed Angela's arm again, this time twisting it behind her back and pushing her against the car. The impact echoed louder than expected. A bystander across the street stopped walking, then another. A phone came out, recording. Angela winced slightly, but even then she didn't fight back, didn't raise her voice. She stayed composed, even as the situation crossed a line it shouldn't have. And then, with her face turned slightly to the side, she said something, quiet, controlled, but heavy with meaning. "You might want to think carefully about what you're doing." For a split second, Reeves hesitated, but not long enough. His hand moved toward his cuffs, and that's when things went from bad to irreversible. One sentence, that's all it would have taken to stop everything. But he didn't listen. As Reeves tightened his grip on Angela's arm, the situation crossed into dangerous territory, not just physically, but professionally, legally, irreversibly. "Stop resisting," he said sharply. But here's the thing, she wasn't. Angela's body remained still, controlled, compliant. Her voice, when she spoke, didn't shake. "I am not resisting," she said clearly. "You are escalating this without cause." That line hit differently, because deep down, Reeves knew it was true. But instead of pulling back, he doubled down. Have you ever seen someone realize they're wrong, but push forward anyway just to avoid losing control? That's exactly what was happening. Behind them, the quiet street was no longer quiet. The bystander who had started recording was now closer. Another voice joined in. "Hey, what's going on?" someone called out. Reeves ignored it. Or maybe he couldn't afford to acknowledge it anymore, because now eyes were on him. Angela turned her head slightly, noticing the phone. Not fear, just awareness. Evidence was being captured. Every decision now mattered even more. "Officer," she continued, steady as ever, "I'm requesting your badge number and a supervisor." Again, protocol, basic, reasonable. And again, denied. "You'll get nothing until you comply," he snapped, even though she already was. The contradiction was glaring now. And then came the moment that changed everything. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed across the street. He actually did it. He cuffed her. No threat, no crime, no explanation. Just force, backed by authority. The bystander reacted immediately. "Yo, that's not right," the voice shouted. The camera didn't move. If anything, it got closer. Pressure was building. And still, Angela didn't break. Instead, she took a slow breath and said something that should have stopped the entire situation cold. "You are making a very serious mistake." Not emotional, not dramatic. Certain.
Reeves barely reacted. Maybe he thought it was a bluff. Maybe he believed he was too deep in to turn back. Or maybe he simply didn't care anymore. But then, another patrol car pulled up. Back up. The door opened. Officer Marcus Hill, 39, stepped out, scanning the scene quickly. His eyes moved from Reeves to Angela. And then he froze. Not confusion. Recognition. Something had just shifted, and you could feel it instantly. Reeves didn't notice. Not yet. But Marcus did. And in that moment, everything was about to change. One look was all it took. Officer Marcus Hill didn't say anything at first, but his entire body gave it away. The moment his eyes locked onto Angela, something shifted. His posture stiffened, his expression tightened. Not fear, but realization. And that realization came fast. "Hey, what's going on here?" Marcus asked, his tone controlled, but noticeably different from Reeves. Reeves barely glanced at him. "Routine stop. She's being uncooperative," he replied, brushing it off like nothing was wrong. Uncooperative? Angela stood there in handcuffs, calm, composed, not a single sign of resistance. Marcus looked again, longer this time. You could almost see the gears turning in his head. Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough so only Reeves could hear. "Do you know who this is?" Reeves scoffed under his breath, clearly irritated now. "Doesn't matter who she is. She refused to comply." That was the moment. The exact moment where everything could have been corrected. But instead, Reeves locked himself in. Marcus exhaled slowly, glancing at Angela again, this time with unmistakable respect. "Sir," he said more firmly now, "you need to look again." Reeves didn't, not immediately. And that hesitation, that refusal to reassess, it made what came next even worse. Across the street, the bystander's phone was still recording. In fact, more people had gathered now. The tension wasn't just between two officers anymore. It was public, visible, permanent. Marcus stepped slightly forward, no longer whispering. "Sir," he said, clear enough for others to hear, "this is Chief Angela Brooks." Silence. Not the quiet kind, the heavy kind, the kind that drops all at once. Reeves froze, completely. His grip loosened, his shoulders dropped, his entire posture, once filled with authority, collapsed into something else entirely. Shock. "Wait, what?" he muttered, his voice no longer steady. Angela didn't respond right away. She didn't need to, because the truth had already landed. Hard. Reeves stepped back quickly, fumbling with the handcuffs. His hands, once forceful, were now uncertain, clumsy. I didn't know," he stammered. But that didn't matter anymore, because here's the reality. It shouldn't have mattered who she was. That's what made this moment so powerful and so damaging. Angela slowly turned to face him as the cuffs came off. Her expression hadn't changed much, but now there was something deeper behind it. Not anger, not fear, disappointment. And somehow that hit harder. The camera across the street captured everything, every second, every word, every mistake. Reeves opened his mouth again, searching for something, an explanation, an apology, anything. But there was nothing left to say, because the moment he needed to think carefully had already passed. And now, the consequences were just beginning. Everything that happened on that quiet street didn't stay there. Within hours, the footage spread. The bystander's video, raw, unedited, impossible to ignore, was uploaded that same evening. By the next morning, it was everywhere. News outlets picked it up. Social media amplified it. Millions of people watched the same moment over and over again. A calm woman, a routine stop, an officer escalating without cause, and one devastating truth. He didn't know she was the chief. But here's what made it worse. He shouldn't have needed to know. An internal investigation was launched immediately. Every second of the encounter was reviewed. Body cam footage, witness recordings, radio logs. The findings were clear. Officer Daniel Reeves had no lawful basis for the stop, no justification for removing her from the vehicle, no grounds for detaining her, and absolutely no reason to use force. He violated multiple department policies: unlawful detention, excessive force, failure to de-escalate, and misconduct under pressure. Angela Brooks had stayed silent about her identity intentionally, not as a test, but as a reality check. She wanted to see how far it would go. Now she had her answer. In the days that followed, Angela addressed the incident publicly, calm, composed, but you could feel the weight behind her words. "This wasn't about me," she said. "It was about what could happen to anyone." That hit hard, because she was right. Reeves, once confident and commanding, was now at the center of national scrutiny. In interviews, he appeared shaken, regretful, but the damage was already done. Payoff critical. Reeves was placed on immediate administrative leave. 2 weeks later, he was officially terminated from the department. The department faced public backlash and community protests. A full review of officer conduct policies was initiated. Mandatory de-escalation and bias training became enforced across the force. Officer Marcus Hill, who recognized Angela, was formally commended, but also questioned on response timing, highlighting how fast situations can spiral. Final resolution moment. Weeks later, Angela stood in front of her department, not as a victim, but as a leader, stronger, sharper, more resolved. She implemented new oversight measures, stricter accountability, clearer consequences. Because what happened to her wasn't just an incident, it was a warning. And in the final scene, Angela drives again. Same calm presence, same steady focus, but this time there's something different. Not caution, purpose. Because authority isn't proven by power. It's proven by how you treat people when you think no one important is watching.